Good afternoon, esteemed jurors. Jason Garnell, representing the defendant, Mr. John Hudson. The state has already told you about the tragic occurrence of February 14th, but where two men robbed the clothing store and Mrs. Lazar lost her life. But the question isn't, did something terrible happen? It is, can the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that my client committed that crime? The evidence will not lead to that conclusion. First off, the evidence will actually show that Mr. Hudson was not there at that time on that day. But Mr. Whitney Barr will attest to that. He was 5 miles away getting chicken from a restaurant. This witness will also attest with certainty that he himself arrived at this restaurant at about 3 p.m. and that Mr. Hudson remained there for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Despite this, the state still contends that my client was there and had committed the crime. The prosecution has outlined for you what it plans to show. What I am going to do is show you why that evidence does not lead to this conclusion. Remember, the standard is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. First, the identification by Mr. Lazar and by Mr. Green. Mr. Lazar was unable to provide any substantial description of either of the men when officers responded. He could not estimate their heights or their weights or identify any unusual facial characteristics, just that they were wearing black leather jackets. The evidence will show that when Mr. Lazar selected my client out of a stack of photographs, he actually only said, "Looks like the man who robbed the store. I'm not sure." Based on this, my client was arrested that day. Mr. Lazar later went back to the police station for a photo lineup, but he was told on the phone, "We have the men who shot your wife," indicating that the guilty party will actually be in that lineup. Now for Mr. Green. His eyewitness account was of 2 individuals who simply ran right past him, and he was likewise unable to provide any detailed description. And the physical evidence is not substantial. The state relies on the revolver, the black car, and the black jacket. Regarding the .38 caliber revolver recovered in the apartment, police are unable to determine if the bullet that killed Mrs. Lazar actually came from that gun. They're unable to determine if the gun was recently fired. And Mr. Lazar was unable to say for certain that this was the gun that was used in the robbery. Beyond that, it's just the black car and the black jacket. But there was no detailed description given of either of these. No vintage, year, style, any distinguishing damages or marks that will distinguish either the car or the jacket from any other one. It is up to you, the jury, to determine the sufficiency of the evidence that the state has provided against my client and to consider his own evidence of his innocence and not being there. But most of all, it's up to you to remember the words in the equation, reasonable doubt. Thank you.